Nocturnal recaps here. Today, I'm going to tell you about one of the weirdest movies of all time, a Dutch horror movie titled The Human Centipede.
Lips from B and C and the anus of A and B.
Germany, 2009. The movie begins with Dr. Heider sitting in his car by the side of the road, looking with morbid interest at a photo of 3 dogs standing behind each other. His attention is distracted by a trucker who has stopped behind him to go number 2. Wasting no time, Heider takes his rifle out of the back seat and aims it at the man. The events shift to a hotel room with 2 American tourists, Jenny and Lindsay, who are traveling through Europe during their vacation. The girls are planning to go to one of the local clubs, where they were invited by a waiter Jenny liked. According to the classics of the genre, the girls can't navigate a map, so they lose their way in the middle of the woods. To make matters worse, Lindsay runs over something and punctures a tire. She tries to call the rental service, but the phone has no signal in the middle of nowhere. As the girls argue whether to go for help or wait for it in the car, an old Mercedes with an even older German inside approaches them. The girls ask for help, but due to the language barrier, they don't immediately realize that in exchange for blowing up a tire, the German wants them to blow him.
He said f***ing. Okay, roll your window up.
After being rejected, the disappointed man leaves, and the girls continue to argue about what to do next. Finally, they come to the conclusion that it's better to seek help themselves rather than wait for the next pervert. The girls try to make their way through the forest, where they completely lose their sense of direction. It starts to rain, and at that moment Lindsay notices the light through the trees, and they run to the house, not paying any attention to the strange tombstone. Shivering from the cold, they knock on the door, and to their relief, it's soon opened by none other than Dr. Heider. While the girls ask for permission to dry off and call a tow truck, the doctor scrutinizes the hapless tourists, and after making sure that they are alone, lets them into the house. Once inside, Dr. Heider asks a little about the girls, then heads to the kitchen to get some water and call a tow truck. Heider simulates a conversation over the phone with the towing service and drops 1 pill each into the glasses meant for the girls. Upon his return, the doctor hands them the glasses and assures them that help is on the way. The trio sits in grave silence, but Lindsay breaks it by accidentally spilling her water, prompting the homeowner to erupt in anger. Lindsay apologizes and says they'll share 1 glass, whereupon the doctor heads off to get a towel to wipe up the water. In reality, Heider goes down to the basement to fill a syringe with sleeping pills and check on his previous victim. Meanwhile, the girls decide they need to leave the strange house immediately, but by the time Heider returns, the drug begins to take effect. Jenny passes out, and the doctor admits that he put something in their water, after which he is going to inject Lindsay. The girl tries to run, but under the influence of the drug, her legs fail her, and she becomes an easy target for Heider. The next day, they wake up tied to medical beds in a dark basement, next to the truck driver. They try to scream for help, and in response to their cries, Dr. Heider appears. Completely ignoring his new victims, he approaches the driver and informs him that unfortunately, he is not fit. The doctor injects some kind of drug into the man's vein, and after a few minutes, his heart stops. After burying the man in his backyard, the doctor quickly finds his replacement in the form of a Japanese man named Katsuro. Grinning from ear to ear, the doctor wakes up his patients to give a lecture on what he will do to them. It turns out that Dr. Heider used to be a genius surgeon specializing in separating Siamese twins, but upon retiring, he came up with a whole new operation. The doctor plans to cut the ligament in their knees to make it easier for them to crawl, then make incisions around the subject's mouths and anuses, and connect their digestive systems one by one.
A human centipede.
Before the surgery, Heider administers anesthesia to Katsuro, and then goes to Jenny. Lindsay uses the moment while the surgeon is distracted to untie the straps on her bed with her teeth and tries to escape, not noticing that she has torn a vein with a needle. She manages to hide in one of the rooms, but the doctor quickly finds her, following a trail of blood. Heider demands that she open the door, threatening to perform the surgery on her without anesthesia, but the girl doesn't give in to the threats. Soon the screams subside, and Lindsay takes a desk lamp to break the window and escape. While Dr. Hyder tries to break the window, Lindsay immediately leaves the room and rushes through the house, until in her haste, she accidentally falls into the pool, where Hyder finds her. Realizing she can't escape from this trap, Hyder tells her a story about his past operation. Last time, one of his dogs also tried to escape, and when the doctor finally caught it, he placed it in the middle as punishment to double the pain of the healing wounds. Hyder promises he'll do the same thing to Lindsay, then heads to the switch that closes the blinds in the pool. The girl dives underwater, while the sadistic doctor waits for her at the edge to sedate her, but at that moment, the power grid overloads. The doctor leaves to fix the problem, allowing Lindsay to get out of the pool. Heading for the room with the broken window, the girl is about to escape, but at the last moment decides to go back for her friend. Severely slowed by dragging Jenny, Lindsay doesn't manage to even leave the yard when she is hit in the back by a tranquilizer dart, fired by Dr. Hyder. After bringing the runaway back, Dr. Hyder puts the trio on the operating table to carry out his plan. As he promised, Lindsay ends up in the middle, between Katsuro as the head and Jenny as the tail. After a few days, Hyder brings the trio out of a comatose state to show them the results of his work in a mirror. After a while, the centipede's training begins. Hyder teaches them commands and feeds them dog food in an attempt to turn his captives into a pet.
Come. Yeah, come.
During one of these training sessions, Katsuro finally feels the call of nature and, following the Japanese tradition of anime creation, fills Lindsay's mouth with his animated masterpieces. A few days later, during a physical examination, Dr. Hyder discovers an unpleasant fact. Jenny is slowly dying due to an infection, but the doctor has no thought of treating her and informs the centipede that he will soon find a replacement for her. Speak of the devil, two detectives investigating a case of missing foreign girls show up on his doorstep. Hyder invites them inside and offers them a glass of water, following the same pattern as with Lindsay and Jenny. Upon discovering a huge dog cage, the detectives become suspicious and try to crack the doctor, informing him that neighbors have recently heard screaming outside his house, and his car has been seen near where the trucker disappeared. In response, Hyder begins yelling at the detectives and persistently offers to finish the glass of water. The police officer knocks the glass out of the doctor's hands, causing him to come to his senses. Hyder apologizes for his behavior, citing stress and lack of sleep, after which he goes to get a towel to clean up the water. Going down to the basement, he fills a syringe with sleeping pills and informs the centipede that he will be performing a new operation very soon, in which he will double Lindsay's tail. Back upstairs, the doctor is wiping water off the floor when the detective asks him for permission to check out the basement. Dr. Hyder clearly refuses, and an argument ensues, during which Hyder accidentally drops a syringe. He tries to justify himself by saying it's just insulin, but the detectives have already seen enough weirdness to disbelieve the doctor, so they go for a search warrant. Without wasting a second, Hyder runs to the basement to hide the centipede, but it is not there. He starts searching for it and doesn't notice Katsuro hiding around the corner. The man stabs his tormentor in the leg with a scalpel and tries to finish the job with a bite to the neck, but fails to hit an artery. The centipede tries to escape, but a spiral staircase gets in their way. Coordinating their movements, they crawl upstairs, tearing away from each other until they get out of the basement. At this point, Hyder regains consciousness and crawls after the fugitives, catching up with them as Katsuro tries to break the window. Armed with a shard of glass, Katsuro first wants to fight back against the doctor, but realizing he can't win, decides to leave by his own rules and stabs it into the throat. Meanwhile, the detectives return, and Hyder rushes to the pool room where he has a gun stashed. The police kick down the door and set off in search of Dr. Hyder. When one of them goes down into the basement, a gunshot rings out, and he rushes to his teammate's aid, but it's too late. Hyder aims his gun at the second detective and shoots, but the policeman manages to put a bullet in the sadistic surgeon's head as a parting shot. The gunfire subsides, and we transition to the room with the centipede. The girls hold each other's hands in tears as the infection drains Jenny's last strength. Her body slowly goes limp, and she takes her last breath, leaving Lindsay trapped between her deceased fellow captives.